There's a question I've asked nearly 5,000 married women over the past 20 years, and their answers? They broke something in me. The question is simple, but the truth hidden inside it is not. When was the last time you felt truly touched, not just physically, but emotionally, by the man who loves you? Not grabbed, not patted, not reached for in the dark out of habit, touched. Most men, and I mean most men, have no idea where a woman over 40 wants to be touched first. And here's the quiet tragedy of it: neither do most of the women themselves. Because somewhere between raising children, paying mortgages, building careers, and surviving the exhaustion of midlife, her own map of her body, of her longing, went silent. Today, I want to walk you through something most relationship advice will never tell you. Not techniques, not tricks, not pressure, but a deeper understanding of emotional safety and why the first place a mature woman wants to be touched is nowhere near where most men reach. I've spent over 20 years sitting across from couples in a small, quiet room with 2 chairs, a box of tissues, and the kind of silence that only comes when 2 people have stopped knowing how to talk to each other. I've watched wives cry not because they were angry, but because they couldn't remember the last time their husband looked at them like he was curious about them. And I've watched husbands sit there genuinely heartbroken, saying, "But I touch her all the time. I rub her back. I reach for her." What am I missing? You're missing the nervous system. You're missing the difference between contact and connection. And you're missing where the touch actually begins. Because here's what 20 years of listening taught me. A woman over 40 doesn't want to be touched first on her shoulders, her lower back, her hips, or anywhere else men have been taught is romantic. She wants to be touched somewhere most men never think to reach. And if you're ready to slow down long enough to hear this, I'll show you exactly where that is. Let me tell you about Patricia. Patricia was 52 years old, married for 28 years, 2 grown children, a good career, a faithful husband. And she sat in my office one Tuesday afternoon, twisting her wedding ring, and said something I will never forget. "I love Robert. I do, but I haven't felt wanted in 15 years. So I asked her the question, when was the last time you felt truly touched? She didn't think about her body first. She thought about a Tuesday morning 3 years earlier. She was making coffee. The house was quiet. Her hair was still messy. She hadn't put on makeup. And Robert walked into the kitchen, paused for 1 second, and placed his hand gently on the side of her neck. Not grabbing, not pulling, just resting there, warm, still, present. And then he said, "You look beautiful this morning." Not nice, not good, beautiful. Patricia said she felt her whole body exhale. For the first time in years, she wasn't a mother, a manager, a cook, or a calendar keeper. She was a woman being seen. That one touch on the side of her neck stayed with her for 3 years because it wasn't about pressure or performance. It was about presence. Now, here's the psychology you need to understand. A woman's nervous system, especially after 40, after decades of caregiving, after years of anticipation and responsibility and holding everything together, her nervous system is often running on high alert. Cortisol has been the background music of her life, and when a man touches her without first establishing emotional safety, her body doesn't feel desire. Her body feels demand. So where does she want to be touched first? Not her breasts, not between her legs, not her back, not her neck for passion. The first place a woman over 40 wants to be touched is on the side of her face, specifically the curve of her jaw or the back of her hand. And I can already hear some men thinking, that's it? That seems so simple. Yes, that's it. But simple is not the same as easy. Because touching the side of a woman's face or the back of her hand requires something most men have never been taught to give. It requires slowing down. It requires eye contact that isn't searching for a result. It requires a hand that isn't hungry. Let me explain what happens in her body when you touch her jaw gently with an open palm, no agenda. Her brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Her heart rate slows. Her cortisol drops. Her nervous system shifts from protect to connect. But here's what most men miss. That touch doesn't work if you've already been distant for 3 weeks. It doesn't work if you've been cold, critical, or distracted. It doesn't work if she feels like a checklist. Because a woman over 40 has lived long enough to know the difference between a man who is present and a man who is performing. Let me give you another example. David was 57, married to Linda for 31 years. He came to see me after Linda had started sleeping in the guest room. David was a good man. He fixed things around the house. He provided. He was faithful. But when I asked Linda what she needed, she said something that broke David's heart. He only touches me when he wants something. David looked at me, genuinely confused. But I rub her feet. I hug her. I kiss her before work. So I asked him a question. David, when did you last touch Linda just to let her know she exists? Not to start something. Not because you wanted physical release. Just to say I see you. He went silent for 20 seconds. Then he whispered, I don't know. Maybe years. I taught David an exercise. It sounds almost absurdly simple. For 2 weeks, I told him, you are not allowed to touch Linda anywhere intimate. No chest, no hips, no sexual initiation at all. Instead, every morning and every evening, you will gently place your hand on the back of her hand. For 10 seconds, no talking, no squeezing, just your palm resting on hers. And once a day, you will stand behind her while she's doing something ordinary, making tea, brushing her teeth, folding laundry, and you will gently brush the side of her jaw with the back of your fingers. No words needed. David thought I was joking. He said, that's it? 10 seconds on her hand? I said, yes, but here's the rule. You cannot want anything from her during those 10 seconds. Not gratitude, not reciprocation, not a smile, nothing. The first week, Linda flinched because her body had learned for decades that David's touch came with a quiet price. By the end of the second week, Linda started leaning into his hand. By the third week, she moved back into their bedroom. Not because David had mastered some technique, but because her nervous system finally believed him. She finally felt safe. Let me explain what's happening here at a deeper level. The skin is the largest organ of the human body, and it is covered in what neuroscientists call C-tactile afferents, nerve fibers that are specifically designed to respond to slow, gentle, low-pressure touch. These fibers do not respond to fast touch. They do not respond to grabbing, patting, or poking. They only fire when touch happens at a slow speed, roughly the speed of a gentle caress on the forearm or the side of the face. When those fibers fire, they send a direct signal to the brain's insula, which is involved in emotional awareness, and to the anterior cingulate cortex, which processes feelings of social safety and connection. In other words, slow touch literally tells a woman's brain, you are not in danger. You are with someone safe. You can let your guard down. And for a woman over 40 who has spent decades keeping everyone else safe, being told by her own nervous system that she can finally rest, that is more intimate than anything else you could offer her. But here's the hard truth. Most men have been trained by culture, by pornography, by poor advice from other men, and by their own unexamined wounds to believe that touch is a ramp, a means to an end. They touch to get somewhere, and a woman's body knows the difference instantly. So when a woman over 40 says, I don't want to be touched, she's often not saying no to touch. She's saying no to demand. She's saying no to being a destination. She's saying no to yet another person needing something from her body when she's already exhausted. What she's really asking, sometimes without even knowing it, is this. Will you touch me like I'm a person, not a problem to solve? Will you touch me like you're curious about me, not trying to complete a task? Will you touch me in a way that lets me exhale instead of brace? And the men who learn this? The men who slow down enough to understand that the first touch is never about sex. It's about safety. Those men don't have to chase desire. Desire walks across the room and sits down next to them. Not because they earned it through performance, but because they created a nervous system in their home that feels warm instead of demanding. So let me leave you with this. Tonight or tomorrow morning, whenever you're next with the woman you love, I want you to try something. Don't announce it. Don't make it a big event. Just sit next to her. Pause. Take a breath. And gently place the back of your fingers against the side of her jaw, or rest your palm on the back of her hand. No squeezing, no pulling, no agenda, just presence. Stay there for 10 seconds, maybe 15. Watch her face. You might see her eyes close for a moment. You might see her exhale. That exhale, that's her nervous system saying, I feel safe with you. And from that safety, everything else becomes possible. Not because you demanded it, but because you finally understood the first place a woman over 40 wants to be touched isn't her body. It's her sense of being seen. And once you give her that, she'll show you the rest. Music swells gently. Warm, hopeful, slow piano. If this resonated with you, I hope you'll subscribe. Not because algorithms demand it, but because there are more conversations like this to share about slowing down, about emotional safety, about understanding each other again. I'll be here next time. Until then, touch gently, touch slowly, and let her feel your presence before she ever feels your hand.